Uh-oh. Last time I heard this show, I had to call the fire department. It's The Sopranos Podcast, Season 6, Episode 7, The Haves and Have-Nots. Oh, regular people are all fucking stupid. That's a quote from Artie Bucco in Season 6, Episode 7 of The Sopranos, entitled Luxury Lounge. This episode was written by Matthew Weiner and directed by Danny Liner. Luxury Lounge. So, another episode we have here that in many ways follows the Soprano tradition of branching off into something that the writers or whoever was conjuring up this episode, David Chase, found interesting and wanted to explore and spend an hour on. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not, but overall I was highly entertained by this hour, and I personally am a big fan of Artie Bucco and John Ventimiglia, and given that he had the bulk of the A-plot this episode, I think that this works very much for me. I very much enjoyed Luxury Lounge. I'm Chris D'Amato.
I'm Lily D'Amato.
I'm Paul Mancini.
And I'm Jordan Hugh.
Guys, Luxury Lounge. How do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What are your initial thoughts and impressions on this one?
Oh, I fully agree. What a delight. What a fun... I'm sure somebody, Matt Weiner or the other guy, Denny Liner, why do they rhyme? One of them ended up in a luxury lounge and was like, this is ridiculous, and wrote an episode about it, right? It feels very fun, authentic.
Yeah. It also, I think, speaks to, one of the show's core themes, so it feels right in the ballpark for The Sopranos to address, like, hey, there's real inequity in terms of class, in terms of the people who get to transcend class. Yeah, I think this same criticism has come up in the show before, like looking at the people who really get away with it in terms of our society, but this episode is really fun, and I think it's got a great sense of humor, and yeah, listen, we're all Artie Bucco fans, so this was a great episode for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. I love Artie. I love what John Ventimiglia does with the character, and so somehow it might even outdo the California storyline, which is hysterically funny. It's like a 2-for-1. It's a twofer. You get Ben Kingsley and you get Lauren Bacall, who are so funny together. And that, looking at it this way, I know it is a departure. Artie Bucco is not a central character on the show. He's more supporting. He's here every once in a while. He hasn't had regular storylines really since season 1, and they just drop in halfway through 6A and say, no, he's the main character in this episode. And I loved it. At the end of the episode, I kind of felt in a way the show owed him this episode. Not only Artie himself, but actually kind of in a way the way that Artie is everybody. Artie is regular people. Artie is more like us than Tony Soprano is.
Right.
And so his instinct to want to be that badass and how he hits the wall, I think is more how everyday people like me would hit that wall. So I really relate to a lot of this in some ways that are a little embarrassing, because we certainly see bad parts of Artie. We also get to see good parts of him at the end. And it's a powerful episode, actually, for me, as funny as it is. So it was a delight for me. It's a big 6A episode for me, actually.
Yeah, I agree. You know what's interesting? What it reminded me most of in the gangster milieu is the Bronx Tale. Thematically, the working man versus the gangster, the hard way versus the easy way. In some moments, it's quite a bit more cynical, I think, than Bronx Tale, which is a hopeful message. Don't waste your talent. Rise above. Hard work pays off. And I don't know that we get a definitive answer as to whether good, honest work is beneficial. But at the end, when Artie does kind of find his roots, pulls out his grandfather's notebook, it's a great moment in bringing him kind of down to earth in such a way. I like the journey. This is a fun journey.
And the episode can come off as frivolous, but it's not. Artie kind of returns to his purpose by the end of this. I found the episode very hopeful.
Yeah.
Ultimately, which was very nice. There's not enough episodes that we have that are hopeful episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does well by John Ventimiglia, the actor who plays Artie, and it does very well by the character. It's a great journey. And it also helps that these two have such a fascinating relationship. The reason Artie works so well is because he can say and do things to Tony that no other civilian gets away with. No other gangster gets away with, frankly. And that creates an interesting dynamic, because you can put Artie and Tony at a bar, and Artie can talk shit. And they walk away, they're fine the next day. These two can really go at it when they need to, but it always kind of shakes out in the laundry at the end. Very good, very good. And Matt Weiner has such a dark sense of humor. This episode is another great example of an episode you want to point to when you describe Sopranos as a black comedy, which it most certainly is. Let's break it down here. Episode starts off, we are now reaching the conclusion of this Rusty hit. Corky Iannucci, this junkie character that Chris has recruited to equip the Italian hitmen. He speaks Italian, he's getting them set up with their fish, quote unquote, and getting them ready to do the hit. We're going to come back to that shortly. And then we cut to the centerpiece location of this episode, which is Vesuvio. We have a dinner following what seems to be, they describe opening the books. That means somebody got made. In this case, two characters, Bert Gervasi and Jerry Torchiano. Jerry Torchiano is the blonde guy they referred to as the hairdo in episode 1 of this season. He's with New York, and Bert Gervasi, I don't know that we've seen this character in the show before, but I think he's either brother or cousin with Carlo Gervasi, who took over construction when Vito left town. So they're back there, and Phil goes on a rant about, in light of recent humiliations, it's an honor to be joined by men. And I'm not going to repeat what he then goes on to say.
Very colorful.
Very colorful anti-Vito diatribe.
So I have a breadstick.
But then the conversation drifts into, well, what are we waiting on this food for? Bobby's like, new chef aside, what are we waiting for here? Artie comes in, they're complaining. 45 minutes for some grilled eggplant. I love his delivery of that line. But we're starting to get the sense that Artie's, as to quote Silvio, Artie's game's a little off. So how do you feel about how we're brought into this episode here?
First of all, the bit with the two guys is great. I love that Corky seems to speak very good Italian.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, where are you... Once they say, where are you from? He's like, this conversation's over.
Yeah, I love the mystery, right?
I love that.
Great actor.
And the way that the broken English of the two guys is great. The guy says, do you speak English? And one of them says, not some, so much. As opposed to some, not so much.
Yeah.
I love that. And the setup at Vesuvio is great. Nice. A lot of threads, threading through a lot of things slowly. Just the first glimpse that Phil is not letting this go with Vito.
Right.
Nice. And I love that Tony is at first dismissive of the complaints. Oh, is there nothing without this complaining? He relates to Artie. Of course he's on Artie's side. And then slowly we're going to build that tension with them. Love it.
I'm just going to plant the seed now, and we'll come back to it when we get to the end of the episode. But I want to throw the question out now so you can think about it when we can come back to it. Why start and end the episode with the Italian hitman? Just an interesting choice, considering that this is, if anything, a C-plot, if you can even call it that throughout this episode. But I just thought it was interesting that for a C-plot, we started and ended with these guys.
That is interesting. I'm not sure why it bookends. It could just be something fun narratively, or it could be... If we want to really try to reach for some commentary here, it could be a kind of an immigrant experience narrative, right? Because these guys come in, they're not really let in, they're brought in to do a job, which is often an immigrant experience, right? You're brought in for a specific work task before you're sent back home.
And it's messy, and it's something that the people
it's
here
something
didn't
that
want to
people
do.
here don't want to do. And at the end of the episode, they leave, and what do they come away with? With our consumerist obsessed culture, they're leaving essentially with the goodie bag stuff, right? The stuff that they're better off buying here that they can't get back home, right? It's a little piece of America. And what is their little piece of America? It's a little chip of the capitalist block, So there could be a little bit of that.
Well, it's also a comment on where the country is, because they bought that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? They bought that stuff cheaper than they did in where they could have in Italy and France and all of that. So it's a comment on we're probably better off where we are because the dollar is so weak. Mm-hmm. So because we're definitely in our post 9/11 Sopranos land, and there's a lot of commentary throughout on where America is and where it's going, and it's just another comment on America's not doing so hot.
Yeah, we are also between two American economic epochs, right? So we're between. Yeah, the post 9/11 business 2001 on. This episode, I think, comes out in 2006. We're about to recess, right? So we're about to kind of fall off that cliff. So, there's a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, Martina is also an immigrant. like what Lily and Jordan were talking about, it's often put in those terms, as Artie says, to a small price to pay compared to living in freedom. But like you were saying, Lily, there's a calculus that actually we're better off where we are. A lot of interesting stuff. I also will say, staying away from spoilers, they do this a few times in 6A. A lot of watching the show beforehand, I would expect that main characters, like central characters, would be the ones to bookend an episode. Doesn't often happen. Oftentimes it's supporting characters or even once-off characters like these guys. They're in at the beginning and at the end, maybe framing some larger thematic story, the immigrant experience, the larger effect of what these guys do. I don't know exactly what the intention is, but I noticed it with some of the episodes I watched. It was like, oh, they're coming in and going out different ways. They're trying a lot of different things narratively. That's one of them.
And, looking at the title of the episode, is all of America to them the luxury lounge?
That's a great point. I think that's part of the complication. Benny, in his stupidity, just treats any place like a luxury lounge. It's part of the problem with the gangster ethos that you get into mistakes.
Wow. I love that. Great job, guys. Getting back to Vesuvio, it's empty out there. People like to get in that last barbecue. Not the first time Artie's going to find some external excuse for his slow business. Then this mention of Da Giovanni comes up. We're going to come back to Da Giovanni. It's this rival restaurant that's opened up. Hotshot young chef, as we'll find out. The food... See, there's no lack of delicious-looking food in this episode, by the way. That fucking tray of... Even that tray of sandwiches Carmela comes out of the boat with is like, I'll bury my face in that, thank you. Speaking of burying my face in food, I know we talked at length in the last episode about the barrage of gay jokes that are coming out, but I'm going to throw up the props to La Cage aux Fat. Fantastic.
Primo.
Fantastic. But again, to your point, what you were just saying earlier, Paul, the gist of this is Carlo's, they're Carlo and Chris are hunting down Vito, and Tony has sort of we find him great. If not, Tony doesn't seem like he wants to put any active effort into finding Vito. It's not top of his priority list. One of those things, if he turns up, we'll deal with it, but otherwise he seems very uninterested in actually hunting Vito down. And then after Carlo leaves, Chris and Tony have a little discussion. He's going out to Hollywood with Little Carmine. They want to sign Ben Kingsley to their film, Cleaver. And he wants some time off from here, but definite work. Tony makes a comment about Little Carmine. It's common knowledge, quote, the guy's retarded.
Oh, boy, did I laugh.
Christopher says that Tony said he could do this, to which Tony replies, Christopher, I was in a coma. What am I going to do with you? Make a lot of money. Well, so this is introducing our exciting B plot for the episode.
It is, and the tenor of this whole episode is very funny. From the shot, yeah.
Yeah. Rusty is not a character we spend a lot of time with, so I like the little detail they add in this scene where the wife comes out on the balcony and calls out to him, Rusty, don't forget to call Marissa, so that we know this is Rusty.
It's not going to be his problem much longer.
Right, yeah, Marissa's not going to get that call. These guys, they do the hit. I thought this was an artfully done scene. I like particularly how long the shot lingers on the car as it backs out of the driveway. Just very eerie.
Yeah.
Just kind of the car rolls out into the street and just stops, but it goes down pretty by the book here. They come at him with Italian, and he opens the window. The other guy comes around, bang bang, security guard Rusty. Nice clean hit. Drop the guns, get back in the car, and out.
It looks a lot, and it's shot a lot like the scene where the kid Paulie picks up Clemenza in The Godfather.
Right?
And they go kill him. They kill Paulie. But here, I guess it's reversed. Yeah.
Even a similar looking neighborhood. Like maybe Clemenza lived in a neighborhood like.
Yeah, with those
like
block houses, the driveways and everything. Yeah, it's interesting. It's done. I wasn't entirely sure why it was done so early, but yeah, they had a fucking awesome trip. They got the work done. I guess they saw the World Trade Center site, and they got that swag.
Yeah. I almost wonder if they went to the museum after they got the directions from Rusty to get...
Yeah.
East Parkway, not the Belt Parkway. When Jordan parks in our driveway sometimes, I have to tell him, Move el automobile.
Can I ask? And I'm trying to remember Johnny Sack's exact words. Why is Rusty killed exactly?
Because
Carmine is no longer competing for control of the family. Johnny Sack is in charge.
Right.
Rusty is just a captain again, I guess, right?
Yeah, the gist of it being Rusty's a cancer. He's the hand up the ass of whatever puppet is going to challenge the powers.
Okay, so Johnny Sack is especially concerned because he's inside. He doesn't want anybody spreading whatever.
Yeah. Carmine was an idiot that was manipulated by Rusty to push. That's the idea, is that he's the guy who's gonna get in the ear of somebody and create dissension.
Right.
Rusty is, or was, rest in peace, also a guy who he was smart. We still thought of him as the Cheney.
Yeah,
if there were brains in that operation.
If Carmine Jr. was a commentary on George W.,
right.
Rusty was his Cheney. Right.
So those are some of his skills. What was Rusty not? Rusty was not a big man physically in terms of stature. Neither is Artie, neither is Benny, neither is Ben Kingsley. Is there something in this episode where a few of these guys are getting too big for their britches? They're trying to overreach. They cannot naturally act that thing that Ben Kingsley always could, which is being a badass. Artie really can't. Benny is not smart. Rusty got too big for his britches. I don't know. I just thought of that.
That's fantastic, Paul.
Interesting.
That's really good. I like that, though. Artie, we get this first glimpse, not the last in this episode, of Artie interrupting his guests at a very inopportune moment. Listen, I think there's a happy medium here. We're going to talk about this. I like when I'm at a restaurant and
the host is convivial.
Warm and convivial. Yeah. I think Artie could come out and speak, but the way he does it, the things he says, when he says it, he just has a hard time, it seems, reading the room. This guy was mid-sentence about to hit kind of the punchline of the story. He's asking this other guy about his dad, and he's got a mouthful of food. It's awkward. He goes on describing in detail how he dragged the straight razor across the meat, and it's like, maybe save it for, as Charmaine would say, a quick visit at coffee, right? But he's going on and on here.
Well, it's an example of a business and a business owner who's not adapting to changing times, right? The menus, everybody's talking about the menu's tired. They've raved about Artie's food before. It's just that Don Giovanni is fresh and new, right? Oh, it's a new chef, he's young, he's this. But it's really just that it's different. They've done the same things, they're hearing the same jokes. He gets a lot of regulars, they're hearing the same thing. And as somebody who's worked in restaurants a really long time, he's going in at the wrong time. You have to go to a table with purpose, and then you start schmoozing rather than just showing up, right? And
it would have been different if he had been running a drink over there. Right?
Yeah, Artie's lost his groove, and at the end of the episode, we see that Artie's got his groove back, right? And he realizes, even though different people have told him throughout the whole episode, hey, you got to do something different. The chatting, the menu, all of that, but he's not willing to hear it. So it's not even just that Benny screws him over, it's also that he's in his own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really is in his own way. It's like, I don't know, he's he's lonely or something. He's really wants, I know I'm laughing, but it is he wants that company, he wants some affirmation. But as you said, Chris, as you said, Lily, it's the inopportune time. One of my first thoughts when I watched this scene was the bit where he cooled it down and he slides the straight razor across. I said, who would be interested in that is Chris D'Amato. He'd be interested in those details. But not everybody wants to hear every detail of how it was made. That's not why people go to restaurants. They go to restaurants so they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And certainly, as you guys said, the inopportune time. And I think you're right, Lily, about Don Giovanni. It's what's new. Martina is what's new, right? Mm.
Speaking of Martina, we meet her. She's from Albania. Her whole family was blown up.
Sorry.
Yeah, real hilarious, Jordan.
That's the way you said it.
Okay.
Heard it here, folks.
All right.
For the record, Paul is laughing too.
Well, we're all laughing. It's a funny thing. All right. Murmur. Hold on. We'll get there in a second.
I love Murmur.
I love Murmur, too. And this is actually... Murmur's been in a few scenes here and there. He has a good chemistry with Michael Imperioli, but this is a standout episode for Murmur. I think he does a fine job here. Just really does exactly what he needs to do in his scenes. But little eyes here between Benny and Martina. There's something happening there. We find out that Benny is now glued to this spot at the bar. We're going to be coming back to that. Another little thread that weaves its way through the episode is this credit card scam that's going to be making its way to Vesuvio and many other interesting locales that we can discuss. But Murmur is going around collecting these credit card numbers and bringing them to these two Arab fellows, Ahmed and Mohammed, who are at the Bing. So now we get what their game is and how they're involved. Very interesting. This I have some thematic notes on that we can come back to as we get further on, but we touched down on that. We see Da Giovanni. It's Phil's grandson's confirmation, I think. Right?
Yeah.
And Vito Jr. and Vito's kids are getting bullied by some of the other kids here. I think one of them calls him, quote, Homo Jr., not cool. Mom breaks it up. Tony and Carmela are very much enjoying the food. The gnocchi, the way she described it, sounds awesome. This food looks really good.
Yeah, Tony's face after she gives him that piece of gnocchi.
Yeah,
My goodness, it says it all.
Yep, and she describes Vesuvio as depressing lately. That menu is so tired.
Is it one of those instances where it's, well, I guess this is sort of right? But it's not just the restaurant. It's the man and the restaurant, right? It's Vesuvio is tired because Artie is tired, right? Vesuvio is passé because Artie is passé. That seems to be what's being communicated. Yeah. And look at the chef at Da Giovanni, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a young, handsome man with a full head of hair.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. Yep. Something Artie has.
Right.
You could not get more opposite than the transition. The place is packed, they're applauding him, and he's giving, like, the Pope high sign, like, I barely have time for this.
Right.
I gotta get back.
Probably a guy that never comes out of the kitchen, yeah.
Right. Cut to Artie busting out of the kitchen like, somebody show me attention, and the dining room's dead.
Yeah.
That's the dynamic right now.
Well, yeah, he's lost his purpose, right?
Right.
It's like the Simon Sinek start with why. The why he's doing this has faded. It's lack of adaptation, like I said. But he doesn't have his passion where Da Giovanni obviously has a lot of passion for what they're doing right now. It's not that Artie can't cook. It's not a quality. It's not a talent issue because again we've known and seen that Artie can cook beautiful food. So it's a passion thing, and he needs to find that, and luckily he does.
The Da Giovanni scene is also really nice because it's like a Robin Green, Mitchell Burgess dinner scene, just writ large. It's like it's very quick, but you get a touchdown on a lot of different stories, and it keeps everything moving.
It's even bright. It's bright in there. There's a lot of sunlight. I know it's during the day, but Vesuvio doesn't really have any windows and things like that, so it just looks so much more lively.
Yeah, Vesuvio is like, as you can tell, it's one of those like old, stale Italian restaurants. It's looked that way, and it's modeled after places that have looked that way forever. Yeah. If you walk into a new Italian restaurant now, it's big, it's open, it's bright.
Yeah.
Vesuvio's a little suffocating. Probably has that stucco wall situation going on at some point. You know what I mean?
It's tough, isn't it? Because I'm sure, at least in my experience, what a lot of people like about places like that is that they don't change.
Right.
But then you run into this problem of the dynamic of the marketplace and what is changing, and I think Tony, in not so many words, tries to point that out to him.
Yeah.
It's hard for Artie to listen right now, but...
Well, and Lily can speak to this better than anybody, right? I mean, there's only so many regulars.
Right.
And you're only going to get fewer of them over time as they die off, move away. How do you attract the new clientele? You have to change.
Yeah.
Another fun fact from the Balkans. Great line.
By the way, how many storylines are we getting with Artie is attracted to his foreign hostess?
Yeah, well, Artie really has this, as we see later in the bar, he just has this desire to be some kind of sexual dynamo. Like the older guy who can pull.
Well, he wants to be he likes the savior storyline.
Right.
That's really what it is. It's like, oh, you're young and you're helpless, let me save you.
Right.
Yeah, it's like what Benny and Martina do to Artie in this episode is shitty. But Martina later on, when she says, when you found out I wasn't going to fuck you, you started treating me badly, She's not wrong either.
No, I believe her.
That's 100%.
He does that.
You can see it in his face when he comes out of the kitchen and he looks over at Martina and Benny. You can see that kind of something come over him and he's like...
Right.
And then he shits on her visa thing.
Right, yeah.
And not to be critical of the show, but, in fact, I think the show on purpose is showing us patterns. This is not that dissimilar to what happened with Adriana. And this is not that dissimilar to what happened with I think she was French, the French girl, and her brother.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Artie loves the flirty, pretty hostess thing, and this is now the second one that has had a foreign accent and a little, he likes the savior idea.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he loves the savior thing, that it gratifies him.
He tells her he can't do the visa thing anymore. It's a small price to pay for living in freedom. All these papers. Runs into Tony at the Bing. I really like this scene.
Great scene.
Great
Yes,
scene.
yes.
Great writing.
Artie
these
is
two together.
Yep, Artie's just staring. There's a very beautiful young lady dancing up there, and you could fuck her. Tony. Hey, what do you want me to say? If I knew you were gonna be in such a pissy mood. Heard you had lunch over at Da Giovanni last Sunday. You could see Tony's annoyed that Gabriella let that slip. Well, she's got a big mouth, that one. Phil's grandson's confirmation. It was a business obligation. Last time I heard that, I had to call the fire department.
So good.
Yes, well, that's an example. Wow. That's an example of the only Artie can say that to Tony.
Anybody else would have got hit.
Up until I heard that line spoken on the show, I don't think I had really realized, or at least not wrestled with, the fact that Artie, following season 1, didn't so much believe Tony when he said I didn't do it, but he decided as an action to believe Tony, so that he could accept that he had the new restaurant. But in the moment that he's in, we see a couple moments with the both of them, the resentments come out.
Yeah.
And they're not hiding them anymore.
Yeah, I thought it is a fun detail that they reveal that Artie didn't actually buy Tony.
Right.
He just decided... You said it exactly.
And Tony's own resentment. What is it? Maybe you need another fresh start
to fuck up. Yeah, Tony admits it to him there too. Whereas when he had the gun on him in season 1, it was full denial. I swear to God, swear on my mother. But he...
swear on my mother.
Yeah, that goes far.
I like that these two are far enough removed from it and at a point in their relationship when the truth just kind of comes out in an ugly little back and forth here, and history's a lie agreed upon. That's...
No, they're both at a point of acceptance with it, too, to Paul's point.
Years have passed.
Yeah.
But he's got to go plan the menu for tomorrow, and he goes home. Another great scene here. Charmaine has a very good... Catherine Narducci has a very good episode here, too. There's a scene coming later
wonderful.
I want to talk about specifically.
Performance from her.
She gives a great performance here. The two of them in bed. We haven't seen them in a scene alone together like this possibly since season 1. We Artie... kind of, you see Artie around, but Artie and Charmaine don't really have many scenes together lately.
And bless the writers, she's softer in this episode, right? They've made her a multi-dimensional character. She's not like the shrill, shrew wife. They occasionally characterize her as. She has dimension, great caring.
Yep.
Yeah,
she's able to adapt.
Yeah.
She knows the adaptation needs to happen.
Even when we would say at times, well, I mean, come on, Charmaine's right about this, she would be like, okay, but she can be nagging. When she talks about visiting the table, she's not nagging. She is pleading with him, right? Like Artie, Arthur, the chatting, and he immediately gets defensive. But she's right.
And I've done a little inventory on this, just kind of tracking Charmaine as a character through the series. She's never really wrong, is she?
No.
No.
We often are like, she grates on us a little bit because she's often opposing characters we like, but she's a normal person caught in this horrible world who is actually always right. And when she's indignant about something, she's justifiably so indignant.
We love Artie, and she can come off in her worst moments like the quote-unquote nagging wife, but make no mistake about it, Artie would have been dead 3 times over if he weren't married to Charmaine.
Sure.
Well, and
no question. He'd have fucked his life up in 800 different ways.
Yeah, and Charmaine never wanted Vesuvio to be a mob hangout, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Look what keeps happening. Yeah, right.
Correct. Well, I mean specifically what Benny did.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't just happen.
Anyway, you know better than New Jersey Zagat. Arthur Bucco, warm and convivial host.
That's a great line.
Fantastic.
He mimics somebody writing it down. with his hand.
Right, yeah.
John Ventimiglia is a king. He's so funny.
He is
so good.
incredibly funny. He's so good. I think Robert Eiler has said publicly many times that John Ventimiglia is his favorite actor on the show. Mm-hmm. Robert Eiler, of course, being AJ. And as someone who came up about AJ's age, he was one of my favorite actors on the show, too. Me and my buddies who I would watch this with in high school were all about Artie Bucco. Like, this was our favorite episode for a while just because it was Artie-centric. We're at the LA hotel here. I forget the name of the hotel, but it's very clearly not New Jersey. Chris and Carmine pulling up. Apparently Chris had some kind of incident on the plane with the glass of champagne and the AA. Carmine wants to go get a drink. You can already see it in his eyes for the 30 seconds he takes the sunglasses off. That Chris is kind of wide-eyed and immediately feeling the allure of the LA lifestyle, the film guy lifestyle. Right. This is clearly a bad place for him.
Right.
Cut back to very depressing Vesuvio, complete opposite from where we just were, the bright and sunshine of LA and this fancy schmancy hotel bar, to again empty, dark Vesuvio. Clipping the special cards, he's coming down on Martina a little bit. Talking to the guests, the whole high chair thing.
Yeah, his line.
Comes over to
line.
Yeah.
Benny calls him over. Hey, why are you always kicking her ass like that? And so we get this very funny exchange between the two of them where Benny makes a veiled threat and Artie laughs. Oh, yeah, you're a people person. I get it because you talked around that threat so much I almost missed it. Little tense, but Charmaine sees what's going on, calls him in the kitchen. Again, Queen Charmaine saving the day.
You have to plate the salmon.
Yeah. Oh, the kid is a hood. Kudos for using the word hood to describe a young gangster in the year 2006. That's fantastic. She's a slow learner. Picking on her. She admits she's a nice girl. You're just picking on her. It's disgusting. He's a married man. It's a little projection there.
Well, it's projection, but it is also, like, the frustration of the rules.
Yeah.
Like, is no one else following the rules? Like, but no, really, as, like, normal people watching the show, we feel Artie's frustration, right?
Yeah.
He can't have sex with this girl because he's married. But this other married guy is. And Tony, who's a married guy, is sleeping with, well, formerly, whoever he wants to. But Artie's following the rules.
Yeah.
And you feel him grating up against them. Like, doesn't anyone follow the rules?
Right. Except me. Am I the only guy on earth
and
who follows
am I
the
a
rules?
loser because I do?
Right.
Right? That's the question always at the tip of his tongue.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't, he gets caught.
Right.
You're so right. I think that's why this episode is big for me. It's like a little bit more from our perspective. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, some weird part of Artie, and this is where the writers have balls. They show you that part of him wants it. Part of him wants to fuck the young woman. Part of him wants to be Benny. He gets that it's basically wrong, and he should get more, that he can't do it, that he's not up for it. But there is that desire in him. But it moves him away from what his real gift is. He's a first-rate chef who runs a great restaurant that needs a kickstart.
Speaking of kickstart, Chris is getting a nice little kickstart in this hotel room off the table there.
Cocaine and strippers.
Oh, you've been to the Bing. All right.
I gotta tell you, inflation's really bad right now, because when she was naming her rates, I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Those are good rates.
Yeah, inflation's hit everybody, every industry, really.
The bottle of soda I brought here today to drink myself, my personal bottle of soda, was $3.25.
Fuck.
For a Diet Coke at 7-Eleven. That's as of this recording, 2024.
I remember when 2 liters were cheaper than that.
Correct.
Jeez Louise, it's fucking syrup water. Anyway. Immediately off the wagon. Immediately way off the wagon. Not like, oh, I had a little shot to celebrate the
Yeah,
it's
he
like
jetpacked off the wagon.
Woo,
Yeah.
just rocketed. Load the spaceship with the rocket fuel, Paul. But anyway, he's skiing. Artie is talking with Tony in the next scene, down 40% from last year. Fucking ouch. Ouch.
That's ruination.
Yeah.
40% down. That's the end.
Help from you? God, no. There's the gratitude I was talking about. It already clarifies, I'm not at that point yet, thank God. But Tony starts making some suggestions, twofers, and Artie takes great offense. How about an early bird special? That little thing he does with his arms. This is a, quote, fine dining establishment. I'll give it back to the bank before I turn it into a fucking IHOP. Great pride, right? I mean, this is pride. At the end of the day, I get it. You want a nice restaurant, but you're not going to have any restaurant if this continues. So he, again, pushes Tony. I think pre-shooting Tony might have reacted differently to this. But you want to help me? Try paying your tab. And you could see Tony say, excuse me? Like, there's a reason the tab was wiped, Artie. Don't forget that you blew that whole thing with the new vodka. But he lays into Tony. They paid Pat Cooper. They paid the entertainment.
When he walks away, just the look on Gandolfini's face, like, what the fuck? It's so good.
I couldn't help but think back to fleshy part of the thigh and the whole everything is everything stuff at this next scene when Murmur goes to the motel that they took from the Hasids in season 1. The Titleman Motel. And he's in this credit card scheme with the Arabs, getting the credit card from the Jews. It's just like, it's just kind of like, this thing affects everything. Everything affects everything. It was kind of just like a real eye-opening, like, man, this is just, it's dipping into everybody's, there's no, like, separating from this world if you're in it. It's all connected. Good stuff. I liked it.
Hello, my brother.
And that actor, that they got that actor back who, that for this one little scene is just outstanding. I mean, it's been probably, like 8 years since they shot that stuff in season 1?
This is the only time we've seen Titleman since season 1? Really?
I think in season 2 for the executive game, they had him there for a moment.
But it is him.
It's him. They got the same guy. It's unbelievable.
I mean, Murmur's a more effective gangster than Chris in this episode. He is, like, moving this shit around. Then he gets Chris back on track.
Yeah.
He's making moves.
Yeah, Chris's guys have a certain look to them, don't they? Between Corky and Murmur, they really do. I mean, he's like, oh yeah, my crew, I'm just gonna hire really scummy young guys.
Yeah.
That's just what he's got. Okay.
Well, they're doing their job.
Yep. Corky's really good at his job.
Yes. This scene where the guys from MX, interesting bit of trivia for those who don't know, these are real cops they got to do this. These are actual police officers that they have.
Fun.
Seems like it,
and they have that energy to them, but they come and let them know that they've identified the credit card fraud, and no, they're from MX, no more charges. I like when Charmaine puts the bread down and tells them not to curse. At the minute you curse, you lose. You give them the moral high ground to do whatever they want. But Artie this is just another fucking straw on the back of this camel that's about to break.
And it's American Express. I mean, later Artie fires the gun. She says, you want a repeat of the 4th of July? When the cops came around, he tells Tony later on, my dad's stuff about honest work. This feels like America is fucking Artie over. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that. Can you imagine having the opportunity to sit across from Sir Ben Kingsley and say the words, the idea is Ring meets Godfather 2.
Fucking brutal.
As somebody who spent his life in the arts at a working class level, to get an opportunity to pitch a movie to a big star like that, and that is what comes out of your mouth. Man, oh man. Very funny little scene before the pool meeting where he's just like on the phone with Jay, this guy that is into Little Carmine, so he got this meeting set up and he's very annoyed. Why am I meeting with these chaps? Trying to pick out his shirt. I'm just immediately intrigued. He has such a great... You can tell when a celebrity involvement that playing themselves when they have a good sense of humor about themselves. And you can tell that Ben Kingsley is on the level. And,
for sure. He's great.
the immediate dismissal of these two as it's like you are not serious people. Of him he's at the pool. You would be that man. What man? You're Ben Kingsley. You're the boss. He tells them, as ever, it's script dependent. Well, we got a great writer, J.T. Dolan. Haven't heard of him. I laughed really hard at Law and Order, the SUV.
You're pitching Ben Kingsley, a TV writer, for a film.
Yeah.
Like, that's not as big a deal now because TV has become so prestige.
Yeah.
But we're talking 2006.
Right.
Like, TV and film are not the same.
Right. And of course, our TV writers on Sopranos are very much in on that joke. Which
Correct.
is so good.
So, like, you can't just do that.
Yeah, I guess the crash is coming later, but at this point, the experience with the champagne and the cocaine and the hookers and everything has bucked Chris up, actually, in a way where he feels like fully confident in this scene. He's like down, he's like, and he's good to bring Jersey here. He's like, fucking brutal. It's like, this is going great. And Ben Kingsley is like, you guys are ridiculous. And Carmine, forget it. When he says to Bacall, enjoy your success, I was on the floor.
What a weird thing to say to her. It's fantastic. Lauren Bacall shows up.
Betty?
Yeah. Yep. Which is I guess a nickname that she has, right? You were great in the have and have nots.
Yeah.
What a choice.
Yep.
I like that he doesn't get. I like that he gets Carmine's name wrong. It's Carmine Tozzi, but
One of my favorite parts of the episode is when she hugs him and says, "What are you doing out here?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know." He's stuck in this horrible meeting. I love it. We'll take any way out.
he's off to the luxury lounge. This meeting double booked over his luxury lounge, so he's got to be there at 2:00. So they're gonna walk with him. Christopher hangs back behind, calls Murmur, who's again not just hanging out in his sweatpants playing PlayStation. To your point, Jordan, just like, small little apartment playing his PlayStation in sweatpants, socks, beer and shit all over the floor. Whatever, not beer, but like snack food and not a glamorous gangster at all.
Right.
I'm chipping here, Major. We were thinking Sam Rockwell for the younger guy. You know what? Ben Kingsley and Sam Rockwell
Would have made a great movie.
yeah, I'm buying that ticket. But then we get a glimpse of the luxury lounge, and it's something else. Ben Kingsley's going around. All these brands are giving him their stuff. Chris has a realization at one point. Is all this shit free? And then you just see him go wide-eyed and looking around at all this stuff and the celebrities. And I like that they call him Sir Kingsley, and he has to correct them Sir Ben, actually. Chris just can't believe it. How is this a thing? How is this lecture? How is this real? What? We bust our ass to steal shit like this, and it's just given away to these guys. It's unbelievable.
And that's kind of the brilliance of this episode. Maybe it's a little obvious, and I'm okay with that. I like when things are obvious, but we have the low man on the totem pole is Artie. Artie's a regular person. He's got a small business. He's trying to live the American dream, right? Just work your ass off, try to succeed in your small business, and play by the rules, right? Then you have the guys above him who are, in fact, preying on him, right? Mm-hmm. These are your mobsters, right? They're thinking they are gaming the system and getting away by preying on mostly working-class people, by the way, to earn their daily bread, right? Mm. And they think everybody who's below them, who is working class, is a sucker. And then on top of them, this episode addresses, well, there are people that just walk through the luxury lounge and just take whatever they want, because there's a protected class even on top of that, right? Forget the working class, forget the criminal class. There are people that just, they are the world's pets. They are America's pets, right? And they get to have whatever they want, right? So the movie earlier that they, of course, misidentify, they say the haves and have-nots, which we've also titled our episode today. The real movie is To Have and Have Not. That's a classic Bogey and Bacall picture, right? But this episode really is about haves and have-nots, right?
Right.
Artie Bucco is a have-not, right? Chris thinks he's a have. He's also a have-not. Once he sees the luxury lounge, he knows he's a have-not, right? And this absurd experience, which of course Sir Ben will tell us later, look, I know it's absurd, I know it's stupid, but this is the way it is, right? When we find out later, you usually just for presenting an award, you get $30,000 worth of swag, right? There's nothing fair about that. And I love the way that the manifestation of like being frustrated with that unfairness comes out in Christopher and especially in Artie in this episode. And it is something that's just essentially unfair about the American experience. And I agree to Paul's point. I think that's why American Express shows up as a thing in this episode. It's just like, America just fucks you. It just does not work to be fair, to play by the rules. The rules don't apply to everybody.
Not touching that, Jordan. That was so eloquent. They're setting up a meeting in New York. They both slam into that picture. Chris does end up getting a pair of sunglasses as the only character on the show who's allowed to wear sunglasses. I like Silvio referring to him as Cecil B. de Moltisanti there. They're at Satriale's. Tony gets his first taste of the credit card scam. And in typical Sopranos irony, takes some of the money that he just got from this credit card scam that has crippled Artie's business and uses it to pay Artie's tab.
But Benny's not going to give that to Artie. That's not getting to Artie.
That's another.
You don't think? No.
That's another fair point.
Yeah.
You think?
Well, okay.
think
So
Tony's
here's an
gonna
interesting
follow
moment.
up?
We're going to get to the scene,
No.
but when that makes me wonder now later when Benny says, "I was going to cut you in, but now you're being stupid." I was wondering if was going to be Benny giving him his money
Right.
that Tony already owed him anyway. Wow, that's funny. Good call, Lil. This staff.
Benny
meeting-
hates him. He's going to give him a wad of money just because Tony gave it to him?
The staff meeting occurs. Great scene here for many reasons.
Amazing scene.
Anyone who's worked in a restaurant has been in a similar staff meeting kind of environment. It hasn't quite turned out this way, but there were a lot of little touches in here that just felt very real. Artie is dressing down the staff. This isn't a 40-ounce jar of Moroccan olives or some missing toilet paper. This is our livelihoods. We're not going to press charges. We just want it to stop. And
The one guy he keeps targeting.
why are you looking at me? Right? Yeah. Are you looking at me? And then he levies another comment toward him. They might question the integrity of someone who wears a coat pulled from the lost and found.
Fuck you!
And then he stands up, fuck this, no, fuck you. And Artie just goes ape shit. I love that it's perfectly chaotic in that, again, this is, I feel like something that only Sopranos would get right is like, in any other show, some guy starts yelling, the room is silent except for the guy screaming, but like there's like murmuring among the people, and Charmaine is talking constantly under him, like trying to calm him down. So in that sense, it felt more real, and Artie is just fucking laying in. I don't know which one of you pieces of shit did this, but I've been good to you, and you pay me back with nonstop ass rape. Then he rips the tablecloth, makes a huge...
It's so sad and funny.
Yeah, it's devastating. But also, yes, darkly funny. But Artie he's just had it. This is all collapsed on his head. And props to Catherine Narducci. Insane acting here after Artie storms out.
Yes, amazing.
I think,
she's great.
I'm forgetting if I heard this on an interview or maybe the episode commentary, but somebody mentioned the fact that like her reading on these few lines after Artie walks out was delivered in a way that they never imagined. Like, it may have been written as sort of a, rally the troops kind of thing. Like, okay, forget it. Let's just, and she is like barely holding it together, doesn't really know what to do, on the verge of tears. Can we get this cleaned up? Just excellent delivery, such a good moment. Yeah,
Amazing, so real, that
Yes.
moment.
Well, because they all have to get it together for service within 5 minutes.
right.
Like, I've had that, I've felt that emotion, and that was so real.
Yeah.
Like, please, can we just, it's...
Yeah, this idiot just like freaked out
Wonderful.
in front of everybody, and like the
And
first thing
services
she
now, yeah.
the first thing she has to do is tell them to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like clean this up. It's horrible.
It's great. It is great, and like sometimes nowhere is theater of life more apparent than in restaurants, where the backstage is built into it. You just have to carry on.
We talked, I think, in season 2, maybe when Artie was like legit like catering career night at the school. Jordan said, Artie's a tryhard, and this is the other end of being a tryhard and a people pleaser, is that when you get angry, you get bitter, you start lashing out at people who aren't the reason,
Right.
right? And he's like screaming at these people. It's not good.
Well, he knows one of them is the person, and one of them is.
And if he knew who it was, he would not be reacting this way. He reacts
Correct.
with heartbreak.
Correct.
So
We find out for sure, not that we didn't know, but it's confirmed that Martina has been consorting with Benny to participate in this credit card fraud. He's calming her down on the phone. They come on strong with these credit cards. In the end, they got to eat it. She's freaking out. She's smoking. She's crying. They're going to get... She's worried about getting caught. We come back in, just in case we weren't sure. We see Benny with his wife. We do find out in another scene or two that his wife is actually pregnant. Cut to Artie's house. This is sad in a way because it's a cute little bunny he shoots, but again, this is done with humor. Like Artie's vitriol for the bunny, just motherfucker.
Because it's another person eating at his livelihood.
Right.
He's
Yes.
growing his own vegetables, and this fucking bunny.
Yeah.
As much as I hated seeing that cute little bunny die.
But yeah, Artie goes out there, and I love Artie. You want to repeat performance of the 4th of July, which is great because of I love the connotation that you put on it there, Paul, which is just that it's all this Americana kind of pressing down on Artie, but also. What the fuck happened on 4th of July?
Right.
That we're not privy to.
Yeah.
It's very funny to imagine what could have happened where Artie discharged a firearm on 4th of July.
Yeah. By the way, Artie, good shot.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't know if we were supposed to clock that, but
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, that rifle's serious, and he has a scope on it. Artie has undoubtedly at least hunted his own food before, but... maybe Tony's lucky in season 1 that Artie didn't end up pulling that trigger because, it's quite a shot. He hit him in the perfect spot, too, to harvest the most meat. Like, that's where you want to hit. Right in the neck or, it's great. Good shot, Artie.
Yeah, I think another read on Artie, maybe there's not enough for this. Maybe there's not enough. But because he's brought up alongside Tony, they're best friends from childhood, I mean... The idea is that he could have been a gangster just like all the rest of his friends, right? He's the exception in that he did not become that, right? Maybe he would have been okay as a gangster. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he lives with that regret every day. I don't know, but I was like, man, you got the rabbit in one. Pretty good.
I brought those arugula seeds all the way back from Italy in my shaving kit. Just not having it. Chris is out of his mind in this scene with this prostitute in the bathroom. He's can't get in the door. He wasn't going through her purse. It was moving it and it fell.
Good one, Chris.
yeah, nice.
He's got the champagne in his hand. He's chugging it right out of the bottle. He looks horrible. He's calling Sir Kingsley. Tries to get into the luxury lounge, and I love Ben very diplomatically. I don't see how my publicist can help you, Love how calm and you can tell Ben is sort of put off and annoyed by this guy, but Chris doesn't want to blow the movie deal, so he doesn't keep pressing. But he says, I'll send you that script, whatever. And Murmur shows up finally. And this is not the first time someone is going to make the most of the word fuck. And in the script it just says the word fuck. But he just looks at Chris. Fuck. Can't believe how bad he looks. Murmur's great. You said it. I agree. Murmur's fantastic. This scene also rung true with the coat woman, the woman who does the coat room at Vesuvio, coming to Artie with the Martina and the Cavilla sandals.
She's great.
Yeah.
Definitely the Phyllis of this restaurant.
Staff tattletale.
Yeah. Very, very real. I know she makes more than me, but they're like $400. Artie approaches Martina, and she immediately folds. Immediately starts crying, and then after a moment or two of crying, you're so mean to me, she comes back at him and gets real. When she comes back at him, she really comes back at him. As soon as you found out I wasn't going to fuck you, you started picking on me. I'll never fuck you. I laugh at you when I fuck Benny in the pile of money we take from your stupid customers. And Artie, you're fired. And screams her out the door. She gives him the finger. You think that doesn't go on your permanent record? We lead the world in computerized data collection, which is an insane thing to yell out the door at somebody you just fired.
Very, very intimidating.
Yeah. Goes right to Benny's house, rings the doorbell, knocks.
Not before drinking a lot, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, and longtime watchers of the show have to have a little trepidation at this because we've seen this go very poorly for Artie. Him going in to physically confront somebody. However,
Benny's not big.
Benny is not this big Frenchman that they had.
And Artie's real mad.
And Artie is, much more.
Because this is a lot Benny and the scam, but this is also everything else. This is Da Giovanni. This is all of it.
Pulls him out. My wife's pregnant. She needs her sleep. Found out about your little credit card business. Step outside, Benny. Comes out. Artie starts shoving him. I was going to cut you in. Now you're being stupid. Everyone knows. So, and then he gives our pull quote. So what is it? Normal people are just stupid to you?
It happens very quick. And he says, "Oh, regular people are all fucking stupid."
Yeah.
And it's fucking. He pushes him again. And the reason I chose it is because he's shoving that at Benny. As how Benny judges him, which I think is real and true. I think it's also Artie's worst fear that he is a regular guy and he's a sucker, as Jordan was saying, because he went about it the straight path. And something in him wants to shove that away. That's why I chose it.
Very good. They fight. Artie gets punched. You want some more? And Artie tackles him and slams him through the table. It's like a WWE match for a second there. Just slams him through the table and then he starts just punching the shit out of him, spits on him, wipes his hand on his shirt, and does that little fucking air punch. I'm stupid.
Hilarious.
Classic Bucco, but...
I was so into it, though. You were there.
Yeah.
I was yelling at the TV. I was like, that's enough. Like,
you know this isn't... It's not... Benny's not going to wake up and go... Oh, well, I got my ass kicked by the chef. I guess this is over.
Right.
Right. Like, so you have to know in your gut that this is going to get worse, right? But
it's as good as it gets for Artie that he gets to do that he gets to say to the guy, "I'm stupid," and he gets to, like, do the little kung fu bit.
Yeah.
That's him acting the part. He thinks he can do it as seamlessly as Sir Ben.
Yeah.
Can't.
Then we get this awesome and awkward elevator scene with Chris Murmur and Ben Kingsley. Oh, there he is. It's a great ho moment. They bring up the... it's just very awkward. I like when Ben Kingsley asks Murmur, that's an interesting name. What's the genesis? I had a heart murmur when I was a kid. Nothing more to that story. Just nods and looks off. And Chris brings up the luxury lounge again. He can't let it go. The coolest shit in the world to the people who need it the least. To which Ben Kingsley, conveniently waits till the elevator door opens, by the way, but turns and says, "Listen, I agree with you. The whole thing is obscene. But it's nothing like the situation at award shows. $30,000 baskets to those presenters. Go figure. Hopefully we can spread some of that lolly around. I'll get you that script."
And that's when Chris got a wonderful, awful idea. It seems like I wrote down in my notes that the reversion to gangsterism is very fast. Like, they start to sense this whole trip's going to be a bust in terms of the movie business anyway. And they very quickly latch onto this other way to make money.
Yep.
So the trip isn't like a total bust, in effect.
Yep. On the boat with the Buccos. Having a nice couple drinks. Some margaritas, I think. Sounds like a fun time if all this other shit wasn't going on. Carmela was probably briefed that Tony needed to have a little chat with Artie, so he goes in to get lunch, brings in Charmaine, and Tony beckons Artie to the upper part of the boat. And then this scene really cuts this scene cuts to the heart of what's happening here and how Artie's feeling. But all this, what you brought on yourself, brought on myself. And Tony tells him that says he's going to kill you. And Tony takes offense, Artie takes offense to the idea that he brought this on himself. Oh, I suppose you let a certain element into your world, you're asking for it. I'm just another victim of Benny Fazio criminal mastermind. Which
Great
is
line.
one of the best lines in the whole episode, for my money.
Yeah, we're gonna get to how Benny is actually real stupid.
Yeah.
The scam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Twofer's, he has to go to Twofer's. His accountant insisted. And then it gets real sad here when you can see Artie getting emotional about his father. I always believed him about honest work. It pays off in the end. You'll see. What a joke. And Tony has to kind of corral him and listen, you gotta... I hate seeing you like this because you start thinking crazy shit. He knows that Artie has something in him that will get... Artie, when he's pushed, will go to some crazy places. So Tony knows that and is trying to squash this as best he can. Chris gets the call. Ben Kingsley passed. I sent him a muffin basket with the script and everything. Oh, well.
Breaks the sunglasses.
Breaks the glasses that he got. And then we get this scene between Tony and Benny in the back of Satrial's. I'm going to take him to the warehouse in Patterson, drive fucking nails through his balls. You can kill me after if you want. Tony brings up, you're having a son. He's not just being nice and congratulating him. He's basically saying, think big picture here. Don't fuck up. You got a lot going for you right now. Don't fuck this up. Gets him in a hug and lays it down. I actually really like the way Tony handles this here. He doesn't blow up at him. He doesn't embarrass him. He is very calm. He's very firm. This is an example of Tony being a decent boss, if not having necessarily the foresight to understand that it's not going to go away. But I like how he tries here. It's over. You don't shit where... I love this line. You don't shit where you eat, and you really don't shit where I eat.
Yeah, whoa.
Yeah, and that's just it. This is, I don't know what anybody was thinking scamming Vesuvio. Everyone has to know that Tony and Artie are close. And
I think Benny was thinking that with Chris away, this was his chance to step up and get some big envelopes. Even Tony notices. Running it at Vesuvio was beyond stupid.
Yeah.
Even if Tony were not a close friend, it would have been the wrong place because it's just a hangout. It's not a front operation. The fact that Tony is close friends with Artie, Benny is not a strategist at this point.
He also tells him that the anniversary party is not going to be at Da Giovanni. It's going to be at Vesuvio. He's going to apologize and cut you a rate. Okay. Look at my face. Tony's not having it. So he thinks, knock on wood, this is squashed. It's going to go away. And then we get a scene that I even having seen this now dozens of times, the words that are about to come out of my mouth, where Lauren Bacall gets punched in the face and... Who actually does the punch here? Is this Chris doing or is this Murmur?
I believe it's Chris.
And Murmur's in the car?
Yeah.
So Chris punches Lauren Bacall in the face, steals the basket.
Which I think symbolizes for what Chris would like to do to Hollywood in general.
Right. Yeah.
That's his artistic contribution to Hollywood.
Yeah, he's had it. Yep.
The Sopranos gets Lauren Bacall to say the line, "Jesus, my fucking arm." It's great.
Fantastic. Vesuvio Twofer's night. It's exciting. There's an energy in the air. You can see you can see Artie when the doors there's a line down the block. Everyone's excited. We got service going. Get ready. Push the scampi. Okay. Open the doors. Artie and Charmaine are standing there like that ad in the paper that they took out. Just the owner's chef and his wife, and then these people come in. Do you have low salt selections? That's the first thing.
They seem so sweet too.
They are sweet.
It's the Walker crowd.
Yep. It's
I thought of Casino, Chris. Remember at the end they open up the door and the people slowly walk in. Now Disneyland.
Right, exactly. And they are sweet, but this is definitely the
when you want
the 4:30 dinner crowd, right?
When you want to be a fine dining establishment, that's not who you want your clientele to be.
Right. And how are you going to get your clientele back after that?
Correct. Yeah. Because vibe is everything, right?
Mm-hmm. So Artie just turns and walks away, but at least the restaurant's full, right? It's the most action he's had here in a while. He greets Benny. They shake hands. He's saying hello to the couple. They're talking about the veal loin, but that's at the other place. The parents are mixed. They didn't get the Da Giovanni they were promised, but it's a nice, sweet little dinner. This the couple they cast to be Benny's parents are actually very sweet-looking, cute older couple. Artie fucking cannot help himself. He just can't help himself. He has to do it. He has to offer a martina. It's like a martini, but from Albania. Apparently, they go down real easy. We're going to look at the menus. You can see Benny just fuming. And
The last time that Artie's chatting gets him in trouble.
yeah, I mean, he just cannot fucking help himself. Goes back there. Benny, you can see him processing it, and charges back into the kitchen and shoves his hand in the boiling hot sauce. Tough to watch, very painful. We find out later, Tony mentions that a layer of skin came off his hand like a glove. Ouch. But yeah, this ended in another tragic escalation in the saga of Artie Bucco and Benny Fazio. Chris, I have to think in some sad way, this is the only way Chris was ever going to make the front page of the Hollywood trade papers. Mm-hmm. Him and Murmur are on the plane laughing, and then Chris and Ben Kingsley lock eyes. Ben Kingsley's getting on the plane, and again, the delivery here. Jordan, you want to do the honors?
Fuck.
Like a 4-syllable fuck comes out of Ben Kingsley's mouth. Very good, very good. Thank you, Ben Kingsley, for this amazing cameo performance.
He's a good sport in general.
Yeah.
Because this is listen, how many Academy Awards between nominations and wins and whatever, but also, like, he'll do a Night at the Museum 3. He'll do an Iron Man 3. Mm-hmm. Like, he'll play. He'll play, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
In season 2, sending himself up a bit.
Yeah.
And it is TV, but you can tell that these actors, in addition to having a good sense of humor about themselves, also you can tell they have a respect for the show, right?
Sure.
Because why else do this, right?
Well, certainly by now. I mean, it's been for most of these seasons, but, like, everyone on Earth is watching The Sopranos right now. So, yeah. Ben Kingsley popping up on the show that's fine.
Right.
Artie's got this thing on his hand. His whole hand's wrapped up. Artie's banged up and telling Tony that Benny really did a number on this place for us to fire. Now maybe it's cursed. Tony's waiting for Carmela and her mother. I guess Hugh and Carmela are not speaking, but they eventually show up. Artie uses the high chair line on another couple, and Tony at this point has seen enough. I really like this scene quite a bit when Tony goes back into the kitchen. It's my second favorite scene in the episode, perhaps, when Tony finally lays it out and tries to help him. Legitimately tries to give him good advice, tells him he goes about in pity for himself, uses the Ojibwe saying that's been a driving motivator for Tony this first part of this season since coming out of the coma. Or I like Artie mocking, how about a strolling accordionist?
I like when he calls Tony Bodhisattva.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I suppose because you know how to eat, you know how to run a restaurant. Tony gives him very down-to-earth business advice. The playing field changes, and you got to do what you got to do to keep your dick up. And
Tells him he should go to therapy.
Tells him he should go to therapy. He offers him Dr. Melfi's phone number. She's Italian. You'll like her. And Artie just can't deal with it. If you hate it here so much, why don't you go to Da Giovanni, see if he'll give you that bland shit for your shot up pancreas. And Tony drops the bomb on him, and it's amazing how Tony gave him such great advice, and then this is the thing that hits because he knows it's not bullshit because he got it from someone who does care about him, Charmaine, and he's heard it now.
People that love him most.
That love him most and hate each other.
Right.
Have told him the same thing independently.
Yep.
So it really kind of sits with him. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing.
And this is very hard.
It's very hard. Nobody wants to hear you talk. You come out there with these bad jokes, these stupid stories. People want to eat. Just stay in the kitchen. That's for a start. And you can tell it stings. But
And Gandolfini says, not saying it mean.
yeah.
It's as nice and plain as he could put it.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not rise to Artie's bait.
Also might be a post-shooting kind of relaxed vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Pull back.
Oh, no doubt. Tony has been different. Tony
Yeah.
has been different.
Absolutely. Chris comes back and gives Tony his taste of the swag, and Tony's already not in a good mood because of all of the shit that's been going on, and this stuff doesn't seem to be hitting. Chris thought he was going to score a big win with that golf resort trip. Looks like Sarasota after a 20-hour flight. Tosses it down. The dog purse, the watch is like, all right, the watch is fine. He's gotten Carmela nicer things that we've seen. Puts it aside. He seems very nonplussed with Christopher's haul here. They didn't get Ben Kingsley. They're looking elsewhere now.
Chris tries to play that off like they didn't want it.
Yeah, he wasn't right for it. Right? Yeah, exactly. And Tony, after the Lindsay Lohan comment, says, I can't help but think if you were here watching your crew, none of this would have happened. It's a loss of focus, and Chris, once again, not many guys have had to make the sacrifice I've made, and very interesting that they end the scene on this line. Tony wins the exchange because they cut after he says, how many times are you going to play the Adriana card?
Hello.
Brutal. Yeah. Brutal line, and you have to imagine, though they don't show the follow-up to that Chris probably didn't fight back against that, but also I bet he didn't take that very well either.
No.
It leaves the tension between them hanging, which
correct.
Is nice. Yeah.
Yes. Harkening back to Tony's story earlier about reminding us about the season 1 finale when he's in the kitchen with Artie, about how in one of the darkest nights of his life they came here and they were so happy to be here. I like this development at the end where this couple comes in and everybody's left and Artie's just back there going through the receipts, and Charmaine opened up wine for them, and Artie eventually caves and says they're going to have to eat what I give them. She goes out there, and he gets out Angelo Bucco's recipe book, which we find out is his grandfather. Starts looking for that recipe and cooks the rabbit that he shot earlier. And I gotta say, the way they shot this, the way they executed it, the way it was acted, the way Artie finally smiled when he looked at that, and when he was looking at that old notebook, just flipping through it, smiling at his grandfather's notes, he reconnected there with. You gotta, when you find yourself, if you're a working class person and you are following all the rules, you hit the humdrums sometimes, and you gotta re-find your why. And this is a really beautiful moment of that. I think Artie kind of going back to his roots and getting his ass on the line by himself in his own kitchen, really savoring it too, not just doing it by rote, but smelling the garlic after it goes in the pan, and really just taking his time. And this might have been one of the best dishes Artie ever made. He really could put his love and his heart into it. The reason why this is, for Artie anyway, maybe a hopeful ending, is we talked earlier about regulars, and I have to imagine that this couple out there, he just made regulars out of them. They're going to be back.
And they're young.
And they're young.
And they're young. Yeah, they're the antithesis of what he's had to try to do with everybody else at the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
He's had to bring in an older clientele on a twofer, pushing scampi.
Yeah.
With low sodium.
Right. Yeah. So this is great. It's a bespoke dish. Ooh, a rabbit. A daring. Not everyone wants rabbit. Ooh, interesting. I'm bringing it right to you. Young couple, wine, late at night, exclusivity. It's kind of what he would want to do. And he's in the kitchen. He's not out talking to them. Charmaine handled that. Good.
Yep. Yeah.
What's Da Giovanni's will probably come and go. Martinez will come and go. They go down easy. But pretty consistently, even on not so good days in their life, Artie will be a great chef, and Charmaine will have a capacity with people. So probably that's best how it works. Another nice thing about the way this ends, he said, they gotta eat what I give them. He pulls out the old notebook. But what is old will be new again. And he starts looking at it. It seems like simple ingredients. Starts setting it up. Charmaine comes back. She sees it. And she says, Audie, not everybody likes rabbit. Now that's a little nagging. I get it. Not everybody likes rabbit. But if you tell him the guy to be in the kitchen, let him do his thing. Not everybody likes rabbit. Oh, is that your grandfather's old recipe? And he says, no, not the way I've been thinking about it. So he's going to do a redux on it. Mm-hmm. So he is going to change it up, as you have to in business, right? So a nice note to go out on for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. You have to think that that couple out there is never going to forget this night and come back here. And they did it. It was beautifully done. The music, the way the dish looks. I mean, I'd eat it, and I'm not a I don't know that I've had rabbit before, frankly, but
It's good.
looked
But
tasty.
to your point, Paul, anytime you're going to set a trend, you have to do something that a lot of people may not have thought of or liked. You know, you think about how food trends work. For a while, we were putting a fried egg on everything, right? But eggs are for breakfast. Someone must have said that, right? And then all of a sudden, an egg is on everything. Everybody's putting an egg on a burger, on a whatever, stir fry, whatever it is. And you think about how all of, but quinoa, those are just seeds. No one's going to want it. You think about how all of these things go, and yet they end up becoming insanely popular, right? So you think about, well, not everybody likes rabbit. Well, maybe he starts something new, because especially if not everybody likes rabbit, it probably means Da Giovanni's not doing it.
Very well said.
Yeah.
And then we end the show with this scene in the plane, which we gave an interpretation on earlier when we talked about the two hitmen going back and the swag they got being cheaper in the USA. Just a fun little note, and then we'll close out. One of the passengers in the plane in the background is David Chase, just sitting across the aisle reading a magazine. It's kind of fun in the Sopranos universe. The last time David Chase appeared in the show, physically seen, is in Commendatore. So David Chase's background character in the
Is
world
Italian.
of the show is Italian. Maybe was over in the States visiting and heading back to Italy. And that's it. That's Luxury Lounge. Any final thoughts on how they close the episode out, or the episode as a whole?
Yeah, I just want to hone in on Ben Kingsley's line here. This is after the elevator scene. He says, and Chris, you already brought this point up, but he says, "I agree with you. The whole thing's obscene, and it's nothing compared to the situation at award shows. Presenters get about $30,000 worth of merchandise in those baskets." And then he says, "That's a year's salary for some people." And I thought in the some people moment, I was like, you're talking about Artie, right? Maybe he makes more than $30,000, but that could have been an average person's salary in this time. That's what someone's average salary listening to this podcast right now. The fact that inequity exists is the biggest crime in this episode to me. And that's not to speak like anti-capitalist or like promote socialism or something like that. I'm not a socialist, I'm a capitalist. But the fact that we exist in a society that is so unfair, that allows that inequity to exist, is absurd and is obscene. And it also is the reason why these characters are so frustrated, right? A guy who is just a normal guy who plays by the rules like Artie can't help but feel frustrated. In fact, I would say frustration, more than anything else, is what is the key defining trait of the working class, right? Yes, of course they're hardworking and they have good family values and everything, but actually it's their frustration that working class people can commiserate with the most. And to me, that's what makes them the most human. Artie's a character that we're always been able to just kind of like lock into because, as you guys brought up earlier in the episode, in many ways he's a surrogate for us. These other characters do unspeakable things that we would never do, right? They kill people, they steal from other people, they cheat on their wives ad nauseum, right? Artie's just a normal guy trying to make it work, and the system works opposite to him. That is something very serious that the show brings up often and does really well in Luxury Lounge.
Damn. And it really hits home. Talk about something that strikes a nerve in the present culture, right?
Yeah.
This has only gotten worse, arguably, since 2006.
Absolutely.
Much worse.
The middle class getting crushed and...
It might be why it hits so well over time. Yeah, I think there's something to that idea of like the working class and what the real crimes are. And earlier I mentioned Rusty being killed, being small of stature, a short guy. Benny not being like, say, Tony, a regularly physically intimidating guy, nor is Artie. And the ways that you do get ahead, the ways that you end up working the system, again, some people are good at it, some people maybe are made for it. The two Italian guys at the end are where the show, at that bookend of the episode, are maybe where it can stay fairly dark and have a cynical worldview, because the end of the Artie storyline is one of the more hopeful that I've seen on The Sopranos. But we still go out on these guys having had a great trip, by which I mean like a very successful financial adventure in America. It's dark, it's weirdly funny, as Jordan just laid out for us. It's also deep, profound, a lot of interesting questions. This is one of my favorite episodes of 6A. It's not a traditional Sopranos episode. Tony is a functional character. in a lot of it. He's the element that Artie shouldn't have let in. You know?
Yeah. Very well said. And I think, listen, let's not forget all that's happened. We got very much into the bigger philosophical notes, but the first line of this season was nobody ever went broke underestimating the taste of the American public. And these themes of materialism and the little guy, I think we're going to keep coming back to this in the next few episodes. In fact, perhaps even the very next episode, Johnny Cakes, which I'm excited to cover with you folks. We're going to have Lily back for that one, so
Yeah.
exciting. A recurring character, Lily D'Amato. And Luxury Lounge. It's in the books, and it's a great one. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chris D'Amato.
I'm Lily D'Amato.
I'm Paul Mancini.
And I'm Jordan Hugh.
We will see you next time for Johnny Cakes.
Fuck.